Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Switch It Up podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about what the Leafs did in free agency because there's a ton to unpack there. I'm going to give a brief recap of what was the craziest F1 race I've ever watched. And then we're going to start breaking down the fantasy football season, who we like, who we don't, strategies. And then finally, we're going to end it off with a little basketball question. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first thing I think we wanted to talk about today were the Leafs, and we've covered the Leafs a lot in the last few episodes. Obviously, just being the off season in the NHL, there's a lot to cover. So the Leafs obviously signed Nick Ritchie, Michael Bunting, David Kampf, McNeil, kind of a very a do it by committee approach instead of obviously the big forwards we have. What are your thoughts on the signings and the future of the team?
I'm just gonna say what I've been telling you pretty much all week, and it's like I'm not gonna
Yeah,
overreact to anything just yet. It's still way too soon for anything. And Dubas, I think he's not done yet either. So, like I've been telling you, I will react to everything at the trade deadline to see, how the Buds are doing, if they're even in a playoff spot,
yeah.
and how far up they are, and how the team's played so far. And that's when I'll be like, okay, let's give my opinion on how it is. But so far though, like the people that we have picked up, obviously adding a lot of size to our team, something that
Love
we've
it.
lacked in forever pretty much. Right after Brian Brick left, we've lacked that, but it's something that we definitely could use. And the way Dubas has signed all these guys so far, just kind of fitting them under the limited cap room that we do have has been, I wouldn't say perfect, but like there, you know?
Yeah, and I think I love that you're leaving it for me to break it down and give my opinion. You're just gonna wait till the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But I think I obviously you gotta hate losing Zach Hyman. He was like a really core part of the team. He contributed a ton. He was a workhorse. I think anybody who watched him play knew he just like gave it all on every shift. So obviously tough to lose a guy like that. But what I think when I think of what we've done in the offseason, I've heard a lot of like negatives. And I think even to a point I was a negative for a long time because, or at least for a few days there, because I thought obviously you lose Hyman, you don't add anybody as good as Hyman. And so by virtue of that, you think the Leafs got worse, right? If you really break it down, this is almost like Moneyball-esque because what we've done is we've replaced Hyman by committee, kind of like how Billy Beane replaced Jason Giambi with like a bunch of players, right? Like Hyman is a gritty power forward who hits, who can contribute 25 goals, and who is really, really, really tough in the boards and provides like that, like a physical presence. And what we've done is we've signed a guy like Michael Bunting, who is a power forward who can hit. Obviously, he'll contribute less goals than Hyman would have, but
Yeah.
all the same, he's very similar. Nick Ritchie, who gets a minimum of 3 hits a game and who is a stud in the playoffs. Like, if you look at his regular season numbers versus his playoff numbers, he is a physical freak in the playoffs, which is electric, which is exactly what we've needed. So if you completely ignore the regular season and the playoffs are what matters, Nick Ritchie hits in the playoffs, which is incredible.
Well, we gotta get to the playoffs first.
For sure. But I also
Right.
think if you look at it too,
Like,
like Nick Ritchie's coming off of a season where he was on pace on an 82 game season to have 25 goals on a third line, right?
yeah.
So ideally, right now, we're thinking Ritchie, if they don't sign anybody else, he's likely the first line left wing. If he doesn't, if they sign somebody else, we go from there. But right now, we're assuming he's with Matthews and Marner. And if that's the case, you got to assume more than 25 goals. Because if he's on pace for 25 on a third line Boston team, Marner's going to set him up for well more than that, or at minimum 25 goals. So that's
Would you want Richie on the first line though?
it depends. I think for me, you have the speed and the skill of Matthews and Marner. You don't need somebody who's fast and little. Nick Ritchie would protect because he's huge. He's 6'4", 230.
Yeah.
So he would protect that line. He could easily fight like a
Well,
Lucic would.
see, the thing is,
And he can
if you
finish.
look at last year, or even in the playoffs alone last year, Matthews led the team in hits. Right, so
Yeah,
like
that's
he really
sad.
doesn't need protection because he can defend himself.
Yeah, but
Like I
every
understand, I
superstar needs
understand,
protection.
I understand like what you're saying, but like if you look at McDavid, his line, who's his protection person? No one.
Well,
If you look
Hyman
at
now.
Crosby, well now, right? Like and even Hyman, like what's Hyman gonna do?
Yeah, but they've
Nothing.
had Josh Archibald there. They've had Milan Lucic there. Like they've had guys to protect
Yeah,
McDavid.
but it's never worked out for them,
Yeah, I mean
right?
nobody
But like
attacks McDavid. And if they do,
if
they
you
get
look at
fought.
and no one's attacked Matthews either, other than Shea Weber, who's not playing in NHL anymore. Like so like obviously like okay, well we're not going to talk about that, but like my point is like give Matthews another skilled winger, like not like Marner, but someone who's not just out there to protect those two guys.
Yeah, but
Like
I don't think Richie's there
if
to
you look at
protect. But continue.
so like if you look at Andre Kosh, another guy that we signed from Boston, both guys coming together, he's a guy that can definitely add speed to that first line and skill.
Yeah.
But if he's someone that can stay healthy over the course of an 82 game season, obviously with his history of concussions in the past, why not try him out on the left wing?
See, this is my thinking too, right? I don't think Nick Ritchie is just a protection piece. Like Nick Ritchie is, that would be a part of his game that he would provide on the first line. The guy can finish. Like he has coming off a 25 on pace 25 goal season. He's
Yeah,
not that slow. Like if you look at his feet, he's not like he's big and slow. Like he can
right.
really skate and keep up with the pace. And all we need on that line is a guy who poses a threat. Like what we lacked last season was a guy with a heavy shot on that line. Like Hyman he was great because he could dig the puck out of the boards, but everybody in the building knew the puck was going to Matthews, right?
Right.
Now we have a threat on either side. Richie can shoot. And
I
that's
I don't know, man. Like I just don't see like as great of a player he is, and I love having him on our team. I just don't see him keeping up with Matthews and Marner.
yeah, but he doesn't need to keep up. Like his goal isn't to be the primary scorer, right? Like
Well, yeah,
Matthews is going to
obviously,
do
yeah,
that. So he's just a complementary piece. Like, and it's to be honest, it's gotten to the point now where like Dubas has basically said, this is Matthews and Marner's team. Like he's
yeah,
not going out to sign anybody that's going to be like a 35, 40 goal guy to like that they can rely on. This is like their team. They better lead it. And he's adding these pieces as like complementary things. Like obviously the theme is upside, right? Like
yeah,
Bunting, 10 goals in 21 games, massive upside, power forward. Kasha, he had a 20 goal season with Anaheim, as you were saying. Like he's obviously concussion risk, but 1.25 million for 20 goal upside. And if we're looking back a year ago, pre-COVID,
right.
the deadline in 2019, Andre Kasha was one of only 3 players to go for a first round pick. Like this guy's
Yeah,
good, man. If he's healthy,
that's what I'm
he's
saying. Like if he can stay healthy, like he'll be a great option on the left wing for them.
yeah, well, he definitely could move up and down the lineup. Like if he's
Yeah,
contributing the way he did on Getzlaff's line, then by all means you would put him you could put him there. Or you could switch the lines around
yeah,
because Richie could play either first or second line. It really wouldn't matter too much. And then as for Bunting, I mean, even he has a potential if he's putting up the same numbers as last year. Like he was on a 30 goal pace, so obviously that's a lot to ask out of a 21 goal sample or 21 game sample size.
right.
But there's potential there where he could work his way from the fourth line up, which is where I think he starts. And
Mm-hmm.
then the last signing was David Kampf, who is kind of that piece where he provides the defense. Like Steve Dangle was talking about on his podcast that he's been asking for years for them to have a center dedicated to the penalty kill and faceoffs. And that's
Right.
exactly what Camps provides. He's basically the way I would look at it is he's David Steckel. Do you remember David Steckel?
Yeah, I remember.
Guy, penalty killer, face-off guy. Like that's what we
Yeah.
used him for. That's what David Camp is to me. He's also, I don't know if you've seen this going around Instagram. The dude is shredded. He runs
Yeah.
triathlons. He is like in his free time, he wakes up and does 20K runs and then goes to swim and runs like all the time. This dude is doing triathlons. He is jacked. It's incredible. So he's like probably the most jacked dude on the team. It's unbelievable. So having a guy like that who's
Honestly,
never going to
Peter
stop
Engvall can
skating,
rival him probably.
it probably
But yeah.
could.
But like I don't go around Instagram looking at dudes.
Yeah, this was just trending on Twitter. I was
Yeah.
I was laughing about it, but
Yeah,
he's
fair enough.
he looks sweet, and then
He looks
obviously he,
go for it.
he looks like a 6 center. But no, then there's this last dude, Meneal, who we got from
I know, yeah.
Minnesota. This kid is, I mean, obviously to me he looks like Mikko Lehtinen. We've been there, we've signed top KHL guys that never really panned out, but obviously there you
well to be fair, Lettinen really didn't get much playing time.
Agreed.
We couldn't
and he's
put
still
him
signed in Columbus, so
yeah, we couldn't fit him in the lineup, which is why we traded him.
Yeah.
But this guy, like I read up a little bit on him today. Again, like is he gonna come into our lineup? Like the only defenseman really right now that I can see coming in and out is probably Travis Dermott.
Yeah.
And then looking at Rasmus Sandin, the way he played in the playoffs, like he's definitely staying. But if there's still some tweaks needed, he's also a guy that can come out.
Yeah.
But there's not much opportunity for another defenseman unless he's a right hand shot. Then
Yeah. And I do think, like, ideally you're signing him to be sort of what Mikko Lehtonen was, injury risk. If Dermott goes down, if Liljegren
Yep.
can't sub in, or if he's not playing to what we think he should be. Obviously, you have a guy like that who you can just sub in. It never hurts to have depth. So that's obviously pretty big. And we only pay the 7th round pick if he plays 20 games. So to me, really low risk, super decent pickup for what the numbers he's provided in the KHL. If he does anything close to that with the Leafs, then we're laughing and it's a great trade. So definite upside there. There's a theme, and that theme is we've added size. This team reminds me of the 2002 Philadelphia Broad Street Bullies team, who were just like massive power forwards.
You were 5 years old.
Oh yeah, it's my first playoff series I remember watching. It's true. John LeClaire, this team was gross. I grew up 2002, 2003, and then we played them second round. Only time I've seen the Leafs get out of the second round of my life in 2004, and we got murdered. This was an amazing team. But anyways, because they could hit, they could score, fantastic power play, and that's what this team reminds me of. All the guys are 6'3", 6'3" or 6'2" plus, and really like heavy, but also fast. And that's what this team is kind of. At least it's like, a comparable team to something I've watched. And I think I like how Dubas hasn't abandoned his analytics kind of mind, because all of these guys have like analytical upside, but also he's added size. So he's done like the Brian Burke, Kyle Dubas crossover team, which I love. It's going to be a cool thing to watch. Definitely something new.
Okay, not bad.
So the second thing I wanted to talk about today is the F1 race that actually just transpired this Sunday morning. Now, I haven't talked about F1 a ton on this show recently, but
nobody watches it. But go on.
It's a fantastic sport. This was one of the best races I've ever seen, and the reason for that
you literally say that to everything.
No, let me explain why.
No, hold on. I gotta explain one thing. So,
sure,
Willie, if you're listening, Hershey Center hot dogs. Best ever hot dogs.
What, like grade 8? Oh my God. Costco, for the record, blew them out of the water. But we'll continue. The reason that this is to justify my point, one of the best spectacles I've watched in terms of F1 races is because pre-F1 race, as we do, I went on to Betway Sports, the betting app that we both use, and I checked the odds for the race. And I threw $20 on Lewis Hamilton, the favorite, to win at 1.44 to 1. So if he wins, I make near enough $10. So I would have turned 20 into 30 and then kept it rolling, right?
Yeah.
Right. The guy who won the race, do you want to take a guess at what his odds were to win the race?
Wasn't it Vettel that won?
Vettel came second.
Okay, right.
But he actually, we'll get into it in a second, but he got disqualified 3 hours after the race, which is just brutal.
3 hours after?
3 hours after. They basically, how it worked was he came second, which was fantastic. He was a superb underdog. Like, his car is behind the field. He's not supposed to win, or he's not supposed to get a podium, but he did because he's a fantastic driver, my personal favorite.
Okay.
But anyway, 3 hours after the race, there's a rule that states that you have to be able to take a liter of fuel out of the car, and they weren't able to take a full liter, and so they disqualified him. Stupid rule. You're also ruining the sport because a guy who wasn't supposed to win or get a podium got one, and now you're taking it away from the fans who love him. But whatever, not the point.
Right. Okay.
Can you guess Esteban Ocon? It's who won the race.
He won?
Esteban Ocon won the race.
No way.
It's his first ever win in F1. He was never supposed to come close to winning a race.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess pre-race, before the race started, Max Verstappen's in it, Lewis is still in it, what his odds were to win?
Where did he start in the race?
So he started, I believe his starting position was 7th. But also you got to keep in mind, he's in a shit car. Like, his car is not close to what a Mercedes could do. It's not close to what a Red Bull and Max Verstappen could do. It's not even close to a McLaren and what they can do. He is in a really bad car, and it was the only reason that he had a shot to win was because it was raining and there was a massive crash. But pre-race, what do you think the odds were for him to win?
But wait, where did you say he started again?
He started in 7th.
7th? Okay, so probably like 25 to 1.
Yeah, 1,500 to 1. Yeah, so $10 on
$1.
Esteban Ocon
Yeah.
got you 15,000
Yeah.
if you win. And for Sebastian Vettel to get a podium,
Really, 1,500 to one at when he
1,500,
started in P7,
1,500.
and he started in P7.
That's how unlikely it is for these guys to win, who aren't like Mercedes, Red Bull,
So
McLaren,
what if
Ferrari.
what if someone like what if he started? Oh, wait, who's he with again? Is he
He's with the team is called Alpine, but formerly known
Alpine,
as
right? Yeah.
Renault. Yeah.
If he starts, yeah. So if he starts in P3 and he's still driving a Renault or Alpine, whatever he's driving now, does he still have similar odds as to 1,500 to one?
See, this is the thing. In the event that he was ever to start P3, first of
Right.
all, it would be extremely unlikely for him ever to come P3. There would have to be some form
Let's
of
just say he
accident.
does. Like, let's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
say he
no,
does.
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
definitely. I'm saying just like in terms of the likelihood of it happening, it
Right.
definitely has in the past. But there would have had to have been an accident from one of the higher cars. But if he
Right.
did, he
Right.
probably would have a little bit better than 1,500. But it might still be 1,000 to one.
Right.
Like it might still be.
And he starts at 3.
Right. It might still because his car is so bad. Like the odds of it happening,
Okay.
a guy winning a race, not Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, because there's 2 cars each, right?
Right.
Happens maybe once a season, if that. And when it does happen, it is astronomically unlikely. And
Right.
he's not the best driver on Renault because they have Fernando Alonso locked to a long-term deal.
Right.
And Fernando Alonso is viewed as one of the best drivers.
Yeah.
So it was Renault's or Alpine in this case, their second best driver, who happened to get lucky because Bottas crashed into Norris, who crashed into Verstappen, who crashed into who crashed into Perez, and just absolutely wiped the field. Like 9 cars went out in the first lap, and
Wow.
he happened to get by with Vettel. And
Right.
they just kind of took it to the house with Lewis on their tail. And Lewis wasn't locked in a battle, thank God, with Fernando Alonso, who kept him behind for 9 laps, which allowed Ocon to take it.
So did Lewis finish second then?
So Lewis actually was, with 9 laps to go, was stuck behind Alonso. He managed to pass Alonso, and he was within like half a second of the leaders, and he finished 3rd. So he
even with Vettel's second
yeah.
place.
So right now he finished 2nd because Vettel was now disqualified.
That's what
But
I'm
at
yes,
the
that's what-
race,
yeah,
he
yeah,
finished
okay,
3rd.
yeah.
But with
That's what I
Vettel's
was asking, okay.
disqualification, he's 2nd. Yeah.
Second, okay, yeah.
But Ocon still takes the win, and he was 1,500 to 1 underdog.
So how many points does Lewis get?
So this is the thing, right? Is last week at Silverstone, if you follow F1, this is basically, it's a very tight race between Verstappen and Hamilton. And last week at Silverstone, there was a massive incident where Lewis took out Verstappen. And so because of that, Lewis went on to win the race, and he gained 26 points and was now 8 points back of Verstappen for the lead in the championship.
Right.
Now, this race, Verstappen again goes out early. Unfortunately, he finished 10th, so he gets 1 point. Lewis finishes 2nd now, and he gets 18 points. So Lewis is now ahead in the standings by, I believe, 10.
16 or 7. Okay.
Yeah, 10 points. So
and then how many races left until?
We are at the halfway point, I believe, as of next race, and this is the summer break now. So there's a month before the next one. And then it's
okay.
they're just about even. I still do believe Verstappen has the better car. So it'll be a very close, because Verstappen's been leading almost all season. So for Lewis to pass him is big.
So I think like now I have a question for you,
Sure,
because you've been watching Formula One for quite some time now.
Absolutely.
Now me as a spectator that really hasn't watched much, just tuning in to a race once a year, I could say, really, or just watching the Netflix series. How because you're talking about a lot of cars being the main thing, right? Obviously with the engine and everything else that comes into the factor, and speed being the biggest thing. Like now, how much does the driver's skill come into play? Like now you could be like with you're saying that Verstappen has a better car than Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
Red Bull. He's with Red Bull, right?
Yes,
Verstappen.
he is.
Yeah. So Red Bull has better engines than Mercedes.
Yeah.
Now is Verstappen. Is Verstappen, is he the better driver out of the two?
See, in terms of Red Bull drivers, so
right.
Verstappen and Perez.
Verstappen's a lot better than Perez, right?
Yes, he is.
There's a reason why he's finishing ahead with the same car.
Right, exactly.
But now, if you look at F1 as a whole, who would you say is the best driver? Not including, but that's the thing, right? Like the biggest factor is the car.
Yeah,
then
for sure.
So then where does the skill aspect coming from?
And
right?
see, this is the thing, is like I think a lot of F1 is the car, a lot of F1 is the driver, and a lot of F1 is luck. So I would say if I had to break it down,
Well, no. So,
Ideally,
so what it sounds like it's most of it is the car, and the luck part of it is coming down to if the driver's good or not. Not,
yeah,
you
I
know.
think it's 70% car, 30% driver. Or you know what? I would do 70% car, 20% driver, 5% luck. Yeah, 75, 20,
You're
and
still
5
left with
is
5%, my guy.
yeah, 75, 20, and 5 is what I meant to
Yeah, you
say.
still have five left.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
75,
fair
20,
enough.
and 5
Yeah,
is what I
yeah.
meant to say.
No, okay,
But
that's
yeah,
fair enough.
so I would say that because because
I still don't. I don't. There's no luck with anything, man. Like it all comes down to the person involved, and if he's not skilled enough, then it's not that the other
see
guys were lucky.
where
He's
luck
just a
comes
bad
into
driver.
play, where luck comes into play is when weather happens. So
But
when
then
there's a
that's where
rain
skill comes
race,
in. But that's where skill comes in. Like,
sort of,
are you
and
skilled enough to drive in
weather is
in wet
like
conditions?
right, but here's where the luck comes in. So weather is like the all evening factor because the cars
Yeah,
you can't really have a better car in the rain. Like you can have a faster engine, but that's kind of where the skill of the driver matters more.
right,
But where luck comes into it is like, let's say Bottas, like even today,
right,
Bottas, the other Mercedes driver, goes into the back of a car, right?
right, right.
Then that guy he's gone into the back of can't control his car. He goes into another car, takes him out. Well, that's just shit luck.
But that's human error.
Yeah, right. But that's just luck, right?
That's not luck though. Like
It's
that's not
luck
that
for
he
the
just.
other drivers. It's because they got lucky. He's now out. He wasn't supposed to be out. That's lucky for him.
But what I'm saying is that that other driver who, in your terms, got lucky,
Yeah.
he's probably the better driver because he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but it's not that easy to say because like you could be lined up seventh on the grid, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're lined up seventh, you happen to be in the accident zone, and then the guy who got lucky is in 12th, and he's not in the accident zone, and he gets by. So he's a worse driver because he's in 12th, but he got lucky because the guy in seventh happened to get in an accident, and he just wasn't near that area, so he goes by. And so then he gets to march on, put new tires on, be in a better position, and then maybe he launches onto the win, which is what happened today. Like Vettel started in 10th, ended up in second because he avoided the crash, and then he was able to work his way up. Like that's what happened
right.
to Ocon too.
Fair enough.
So there's sort of luck involved, but I would agree with you that it's like very minimal, and it's probably every fourth or fifth race.
So
And then
who would you think is the best driver, like in terms of driving skills?
it's
In
very tough to say. Like I'm obviously biased because I've been a fan for a while now,
you
but
probably
I
say
would say
Daniel
it's
Ricciardo.
no, not even close. I would say
Okay,
I
fair
love
enough.
them, but not even close. It would be Lewis or Max, and you could argue either till the cows come home. Like Lewis is obviously has the 8 world championships. And so obviously you're supposed to lean Lewis, but at the same time, like Max, if you watch some of the moves this guy makes and like what he's able to do with his Red Bull car, like no
Yeah,
other driver in Formula One can do some of the stuff he does. Like he's just a freak. And so it's easy to argue. And also they're so close in the championship that
yeah.
it's hit or miss on both. They're both incredible.
My
But
pick
I guess I would say
for
Lewis.
my pick is Lance Stroll
Canadian kid, yeah.
or Maspin, whatever
Yeah,
his name is.
Mazepin. Yeah, he's
Mazepin,
great.
yeah.
Mazepin. Yeah, he's
The
a
Maspin.
walking, talking meme.
Yeah,
Mazepin. Yeah,
Mazepin,
it's
yeah.
he just spins out at every single race. He's an absolute joke. I can't wait to see how they cover him in the Netflix spinoff. But you know what? We've covered F1 enough. Let's get
Yeah.
into fantasy football. We're both wearing jerseys. I'm wearing I got Alvin Kamara as my keeper this year, so I'm rocking the 41. You obviously have Aaron Jones, who you're a massive supporter of.
Huge Aaron Jones fan.
Absolutely.
Not a
Uh,
Packers fan though.
no, really?
Huge Aaron Jones fans.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bro,
so
Aaron Jones single-handedly won me my league 2 years ago.
yeah, he's a
And
freak.
last year it was a combination of Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, and Travis Kelsey.
Your roster last year. I mean, we'll get into it in a second, but
Do
your
you want to
roster
start
last
off
year,
with it?
of course, sure, why not? Your roster last year was a joke for anybody who actually
I had two
participates.
trades.
And for anybody who
And
actively participates in fantasy football, this guy's roster was the dumbest thing. Like I am in a keeper league and I thought my roster was good. Huz's roster was fucked. Like he managed to come out of the draft with Travis Kelsey, Alvin Kamara, and Aaron Jones. All three of them. How you get them out of the first round when you have one pick, who the fuck knows? Huz managed to draft the perfect team to the point where he was outscoring my PPR team playing half PPR. Like it was stupid. So to that,
yeah,
I
my
give
first
you,
I think I had the fourth pick.
yeah,
In,
you did. I think fourth pick was
and I
right.
picked Kamara.
Yeah.
Then my second round I picked Kelsey.
Yeah, I think
And
Jones
then
fell like
yeah,
late
Jones
to the
fell
third for some
very late.
random
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. I was like debating on taking Jones really early on.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a huge fan. That's where bias almost kicked in. But I was like, you know what, Kelsey is also. So actually, now before I continue on for the rest of my team, like I'll kind of give you a little bit of my strategy. Don't want to give too much away because we're all obviously going to be drafting soon. But
Yeah.
you know, whatever. If I'm up top four, obviously the go-to person would be a running back, right? Now the second pick in the second round would be a late round pick, obviously, because if you're high up, top four. That's where I want to see who's available, right? Like, am
Yeah.
I going a second running back? Am I going a great receiver?
So what's your
Um,
strategy? Are you like wide receiver heavy? Are you running back heavy? Or do you even go like tight
honestly,
end late and
so
then you
here,
can work running back?
no. So here's the thing. I'm tight end heavy,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
I
like the
respect that.
right, and then the reason why is because it's one position that you have to have locked every week,
Yeah.
right? There's one bye week that the player will have. You
Right.
can then work around, drop your defense, pick someone else up, you know, whoever you want for a
Exactly.
backup tight end.
Yeah.
But that's your one guy you have all season long.
Yeah.
And a tight end can be either, you know, another running back or wide receiver type player putting up that much points. And so when Kelsey was available, I'm like, okay, this is my guy. Like
Yeah.
if it was a keeper league, then yeah, that's my keeper
And
as
this
well.
is the thing, because to me, we've been discussing it a lot lately just amongst friends.
Yeah.
Like tight end strategy going into this year, like the tight end, as you accurately put it, is like the one position where you can gain a big advantage. Like
Yeah.
the difference between a Kelsey and a Hawkinson is huge, whereas the
Yeah.
difference between a Stephon Diggs and a Terry McLaurin, who
Yeah.
you might get 1 or 2 rounds apart, is not
Mhm.
that big. Like they might put up, Diggs might have 100 yards more and a TD more, but
Right.
Kelsey is gonna go off in comparison to
Yeah.
Hawkinson.
So my quarterback was Deshaun,
Yeah.
and then I always pick up two quarterbacks. I don't know why I do it, but I always do it. So my two quarterbacks were Deshaun and Justin Herbert, which obviously is fantastic.
Like I
Um,
can't get over that
and
Ross.
then my running backs were my two. I had three that I drafted. So
Yeah.
my first one I drafted was Kamara, and then my second one was Aaron Jones. My third running back was Raheem Mostert. That was a late round pick, I think it
Disgust.
was. And
Yeah.
then week two, I pick up James Robinson. That was my one
Yeah.
pickup of the year,
Yeah. He was gross. He was
right?
so good.
I think that's all I had for running backs, and then I think I picked up Latavius Murray later on in the year,
Yeah. It's the backup.
when Taysom Hill kept cucking Kamara.
Yeah. Jacob,
Um,
baby.
but in terms of receivers, I traded for two. I traded for Mike Evans and Calvin Ridley. But I drafted Amari Cooper. I drafted AJ Brown, and I think one other person. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, the bench really didn't matter like who it was because I knew I was going to play most of them.
Right.
And I also picked up Claypool.
Yeah, you did.
I
That
picked
was
up
another
Claypool.
one that was just disgusting.
Well, the thing was I picked up Claypool when he right before his like 4 touchdown game, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
got like, you know, that helped me a lot. And then he just kind of went downhill right after that and didn't do, you know, what I was expecting out of him really.
Yeah, he was obviously not as good as like it's
Yeah.
tough because he was a good receiver, but like your roster was just so disgusting
Yeah.
already. Like you're not going to sub in a
Yeah.
guy like
I
Claypool.
don't really worry too much about defenses really.
No, I don't
Because,
either.
you know, it's like a week to week matchup type of thing, like
Yeah,
who
you
they're
can
playing
pick
and
up or
whatnot.
drop them. They're not a big deal at
But
all.
I honestly don't remember who my defense was, but my kicker was Bucker,
Yeah,
right, with KC, so the second best
disgusting.
kicker in the league. So all around, it was fantastic. Like obviously, I ended up winning. Like our finals was crazy. It was Christmas, and
Yeah.
I was at your house, and we both have Kamara in our own leagues.
Six
You
TDs.
six
That
TDs, and
was
that was
so
just
gross. Shout
yeah,
out 41. What's
bro.
up?
I had Kamara, Jones, and Mike Evans
Might have been the
for me.
greatest day I've ever had. That was just fantastic.
Like
Securing the
that was just a
championship.
fantastic final week.
Oh,
It
it was so,
was
so good.
it was nuts.
To
But yeah, like
break,
so like my strategy is like, you know, just get obviously pick your first receiver to, running back and then get the best available tight end right away.
so do
So
you
then,
think then, so obviously if you're going tight end, obviously like, are you running back before wide receiver? Are you wide
well,
receiver
depends on
before
where I'm
running back?
picking,
Yeah,
right?
okay,
Like
but see,
if I'm a top four, you know, top five pick, I'm picking a running back. But if
yeah,
I'm also like bottom three, bottom four, then I'm picking a receiver, whoever's available.
see,
Because
go
by
ahead.
then most of the running backs will be taken. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if the top five rated running backs right now are taken at five and I'm picking number six, then why am I not taking Devontae Adams?
Yeah, I think it depends what you want to do. Like obviously in PPR, for example,
Right.
wide receivers are extremely valuable. A, because they don't get hurt as much. Like you get a lot of wear and tear on running backs, so they go down. They're easily
I
replaceable.
mean, Michael Thomas could differ, but yeah.
Sure, but like I mean, I'm just saying in general, running backs do get hurt more, and so by virtue of that, in PPR two, receptions matter. And for wide receiver, unless you're getting a guy like Kamara early, who would be obviously a freak, or McCaffrey would be another example, receivers matter a ton more because they catch the ball. That's a point. And even if you're having a really down day, if a guy gets 5 receptions, that's you're laughing. So for that situation,
the thing is, in our other league that we had, so we always go for 2 leagues just so we can manage 2 teams at the same time or something.
Yeah.
And we do it for hockey, we do it for basketball, football, whatever. And our second draft, I picked up. It was like the injury team, my B team. Like I drafted. I had a second pick, and I drafted Saquon, who got hurt right away. I'm like, come on, really?
Yeah, he went second overall, and he went down.
And then same strategy because I had an early pick. I'm picking up a tight end in my second round, and I had George Kittle because Kelsey was taken, and then he gets hurt right away. I'm like, are you serious? Like, what's going on? And then
that league was done week 2.
Yeah, like I gave up on that. I was like, okay, no, I'm focusing on my one team.
Yeah, that was disgusting. But here's the thing, right? Like, if you decide, more to your point, if you're playing a PPR league and you have like a top 5 pick, right? The top 4 picks are kind of set in stone. You're going, McCaffrey would be 1. It's not even up for debate. 2, you got a choice of Henry, Kamara, or Cook. Obviously, in PPR, you're more likely to go Kamara or Cook because they're going to get receptions. But you could easily go Henry if you think the touchdown upside is there. 5th, I would honestly, if you're in a dynasty or a keeper league, look to trade down simply because the options aren't great. Like you're looking at a 5th pick where you got Zeke, you got Barkley, you got Eckler, and all those guys are probably providing the same amount of points. I give Eckler a little bit more upside because I think
he'd have a monster year.
Yeah, with Herbert, he has the ability to get so many targets, and as a running back in a PPR league, that's going to matter. So I might lean Eckler.
Who are their receivers right now?
Keenan Allen, freak, unreal. Mike Williams, who apparently has been absolutely murdering it in camp. So love to hear that. So maybe he's a low-key pickup. If you're drafting later on like me, I got about 12th round picks. So if you're drafting a lot like that, Mike Williams, hear me out. Come over to Devontae's Inferno.
Did they have a first round pick this past draft?
The Chargers, I think they went O-line if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that. Let me double check quick. But I'm almost positive they went O-line. But with the Chargers, their other receivers, obviously they have Eckler. I couldn't tell you who their 3rd receiver is. But honestly, if we're talking fantasy specific, the only ones worth owning are Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So I would say stick with those guys. Herbert, I think if you can get him earlier on in a draft, would be a quarterback that I would lean towards. Mahomes, obviously, and Lamar are the givens that go early.
I would add Josh Allen to those 3 as well. And he's so underrated. Like
he is. He would be the 1A to Mahomes's 1. Like I think if Mahomes goes in the 3rd round and you can get Allen in the 5th, the value there is so high. That's going to be a really good pick. And to answer the question from before, Rashawn Slater, lineman, was Chargers' first round pick.
Fair enough.
So that's what I thought. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of upside with Allen. There's also a lot of upside, I believe, in Herbert. So if you can get Herbert in the 5th compared to Mahomes in the 3rd, I would kind of lean Herbert. Just because he's just so gifted and just has a ridiculous arm. And I think he'll have a better year than his rookie year, which was already outstanding.
Right.
And then as it comes to tight ends, I don't want to give away my entire strategy, but I would say that there's a lot of upside this year with a guy like Darren Waller. If you could aim to get him later, in comparison to a Kelsey, I think Darren Waller is going to be tight end 2 this year. I just think there's so much upside there. And I also think there's upside with Kittle potentially, because Kittle's a bit of a tough one, because if he gets hurt, which he tends to do every single season,
Mm.
he's obviously not providing you value. But if he's able to stay healthy the whole year, I think there's a real good chance he's tight end 1. So
No chance.
oh, I
No
would
chance.
say
Not
it's
with-
almost a lock if he's healthy
No.
the whole year. Dude,
No.
he has the ability. The reason Kelsey's good is because he's got Mahomes throwing to him, right?
Well, there you go.
But,
That's
yeah, sure, it's great. But Kittle has the ability to run over people. The guy had 200-yard games when he was healthy. He is gross. He just can't stay healthy. Like, he has absolutely every ability to run over everybody like a fast wide receiver, whereas Kelsey's bigger, stockier, doesn't get as much yards.
So as much as I want to agree with you, like I do agree, Kittle's built like a tight end, and he's like the perfect example for it. He's like a younger Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah,
You wanna say,
kind of.
right?
He's just so
Right.
athletic. Yeah.
But the thing is Garoppolo still their QB?
No, they drafted a 3rd overall pick, Trey Lance.
Oh right, Trail. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. Like Mahomes as a QB for Kelsey, that's like the perfect duo in the
It's
league
disgusting.
now.
He had 1,400
And-
yards.
And even if Kittle stays healthy all season, I still don't think he finishes. I honestly, I'm gonna go out on the limb and say he finishes tight end 3. I think Waller finishes second.
Yeah, I think Waller could easily be
Yeah.
tight end 2. But I think here's the thing: if they're all healthy, I'm not saying Kittle does finish tight end 1. I'm saying that there is
potential for sure. Yeah,
there's
100%.
upside to the fact where he easily
Yeah.
could, because if you look at Mahomes and Kelsey's option 2. Now he's option 2 to Patrick Mahomes, so fantastic.
Yeah.
But like, he's option 2 there. For the potential on San Francisco is Kittle is absolutely option 1. Like, they have, obviously, don't get me wrong, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, like, these are fantastic receivers, but
Yeah.
Kittle is absolutely the number 1 option. And if he could stay healthy with a young quarterback who's
Yeah.
obviously going to target the vet tight end, like,
Right.
you gotta think there's upside there to be the tight end 1. So if you can get him as the tight end 3 in the draft,
I think you can still argue that Kelsey is the option number 1 compared to Tyreek Hill. And the only
I
reason
wouldn't
why is
say
because, well, depending on what the game situation is, right? Like if you look at if they're down by a couple TDs and it's late in the game or late in the first half,
yeah.
and they need to throw some long balls, then yeah, of course Tyreek Hill is the number 1 option. But if it's like a close game where they're up by a couple TDs or whatever, or it's a tie game, then you're not launching balls deep. You're going for just to get that the first down every play pretty much. So who's the best guy you go to within 10 yards? It's obviously Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like, obviously if you're making the case for positionally, sure, like you could make the case that sometimes Sammy Watkins is the best option, but like, I mean, he's a Baltimore Raven now, so that's a terrible example.
And
but
he barely got any touches.
I know, but I'm saying, like, in terms of Kansas City receivers, like Tyreek Hill is borderline. I would say he's wide receiver 2. You could even make the case he's wide receiver 1 in the entire league. And if a guy's wide receiver 1 in the whole league, he's the number 1 option on your team. But again, like, Kelsey's obviously a freak. It's different. I still think in terms of, like, I think Kelsey's probably a top 3 greatest tight end of all time. At this point, it's almost a fact. So we'll see. I think, like, in terms of the position, he's obviously incredible, but I think if you're going number 1 option, like if they have one play, make a play, it's probably Tyreek Hill, just because he's so incredibly fast. He can obviously separate more than Kelsey can. Kelsey's just so physical.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a hell of a season. I'm so excited. I just think.
So
go ahead.
So your top 3 running back or 4 running backs, you said was Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the top 4 are easy. You have McCaffrey, you have Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, and Kamara. You can kind of interchange the second 3, McCaffrey being the number 1 for sure.
This is for Luca. Okay, Luca, if you're listening, don't draft Nick Chubb. Don't do it, man.
And that's the thing, right? Is
Don't
if you get past those 4 running backs, it really does open up. Like, you have the potential to put your GM hat on, figure out who's going to be the best value pick out of a guy like Chubb, Eckler, Zeke, right? Could Zeke have a rebound year? Can Saquon have a rebound year if you can get him late enough?
I'm saying Zeke will have a rebound year.
Yeah.
Because he's got a healthy Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and I agree. He also, if you've seen his camp footage, like he looks super slim. He looks like he's
And
back to being the
what's
Zeke
with
of
you and
old.
looking at guys and their physiques?
I'm just saying, you got to scout them. You got to know what's going on. Like you got to be able to
You're
scout
sounding
it.
them a little too thirsty, my guy.
Zeke was obese last year, man. He had a shit year. He was
Are
so
you body
bad.
shaming Zeke right now?
Yeah, I am. He looked like
Oh
he
my
looked like he was out. I would blatantly body shaming him. He looked like he ate pie for breakfast, lunch, and
Oh
dinner.
my god,
He doesn't look like
bro.
that this year. He looked
Oh my
terrible last year.
god.
He doesn't look like that this year. He looks like he's trimmed some weight off. He looks like he's back to being the Zeke of old. And I think he's going to absolutely eat this year. It's going to be
Okay,
great.
so those
And
are your running
not
backs.
pie.
Those are your running backs.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Top 5 receivers to go for.
Well, it's
So
tough because obviously, like if we're doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thing, those are kind of obvious if you're in fantasy football. If you're not in fantasy football, then it's Devontae Adams, in my opinion, would be D1.
number one, yeah.
Because I mean, it's like he was absolutely a freak last year.
Right.
Then you go Tyreek Hill. I think it's almost not up for debate that he is wide receiver 2. If we're breaking it down past that, it's really open. There are some people who think it could even be AJ Brown as high as wide receiver 3 this year, which I think I would argue. But when you have Julio as your wide receiver 2, it's really tough to say.
We were talking about this earlier, and you were saying that Julio's still going to put up league leading numbers, and I kind of bet, like, I don't think so. And here's what I explained to you a couple days ago, and I'll say it on the pod right now.
Yeah.
Is that with 2 elite receivers on your team, I just don't see Julio being targeted as much as he got in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because one game or each series or whatever, you can use each guy as like a decoy.
Sure.
If Julio's getting double teamed, which I'm sure he will most likely.
Yeah.
Out of the 2 receivers right off the get-go, then you're leaving AJ Brown open or in a one-on-one coverage.
Sure.
Right. So it's like whoever is getting double teamed won't get the ball, but the other guy is wide open for a large game.
Here's my counterpoint to that. So while I agree that could happen, right?
I think it will happen.
I think a lot of people think it will happen, right? But here's my counterpoint: is that Julio is one of the greatest receivers of all time. He's not as old as people think. He's been around forever. He's only 32, 33 years old.
That's old for football.
Yeah,
that
sure
is old for football. For someone who takes hits every single day, that's
look at fucking Kansas City, right? Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Kelce went for 1,400 yards. Hill went for 1,300 yards. Like, it happens all the time. There are duos in the league everywhere. Like, if you look at stats like that, and obviously it's different. They got, Patrick Mahomes throwing to them. But it's not just those 2, right? There are duos everywhere. So,
but see, the thing with Tennessee is that it's not just a duo. You're forgetting that they have Derrick Henry.
Yeah, sure. But like Dalvin Cook eats on Minnesota, and so does Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Like, it's Michael Thomas eats on New Orleans. They got Alvin Kamara taking
Achilles begs to differ, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's the same thing with in the Chargers with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. Like, there are duos everywhere. Now, do I think Julio performs like he's 22 again and he's coming out of Matt Ryan? No. I think there's limitations. And he's also never been a touchdown guy. But I still think he gets the yards.
It's also AJ Brown's breakout year next. Like his, I think he's gonna go off.
I do too. I think
if you can draft him, like if he's available in the 3rd round, you're stupid not to take him.
Yeah, I honestly have.
I don't think he lasts until the 3rd round.
No.
But if you can get him, and do not give up on the kid.
I've done 10 mocks. He's gone in the 1st round of every mock. And that's crazy. So I think a lot of people have him in the top 5 this year. I actually have him as high as, I want to say I have him as wide receiver 4. I have Stephon Diggs ahead of him.
Slightly. I agree with that. So
I have Hill, Adams, Diggs, Brown, and then Hopkins.
Right. So now I knew you were going to say Hopkins, and you actually brought up a good point a couple days ago. Is that now the new rule with the NFL this year is that any team that has like a COVID outbreak, their game is forfeited, so therefore they've lost.
Exactly.
Right now, with obviously Cole Beasley, the biggest anti-vaxxer in the NFL right now, kind of being an advocate. Now DeAndre Hopkins kind of falling into that same, boat.
Yeah, that he might not be able to play a couple games. Yeah.
Right. So if you're, someone who's wide receiver heavy and he's available, are you taking that risk drafting him?
Yeah.
Because of that rule?
I've had this debate a bunch with a lot of my buddies. Like, we've been going back and forth about wide receivers. And I think DeAndre Hopkins, because of his post, he obviously deleted it very quickly, but coming out as saying he won't get vaccinated. that there are a few receivers in that like 6, 7, 8 pool that you might look to take over him. And I think, like I told you the other day, and I'll say it again here, is that DeAndre Hopkins is like a warm cup of tea. Like he'll never get you 50 points and blow it up, but he'll get you your 15 to 20. And he might even get you 25 one game, like when he had that Hail Mary catch, right? He's safe.
Yeah.
Good. But Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, they're like cocaine. Like they'll get you 40 a game. It is absolutely nuts.
40 game in PPR.
Yeah, that's the thing. Right, obviously in PPR.
Yeah.
But the difference being you could look for a guy like a DK Metcalf, right? Who has that explosive ability, but he's very hot and cold. You might look to take him over a DeAndre Hopkins. You might look to take a guy like AJ Brown over a DeAndre Hopkins. Justin Jefferson would also be there. So those type of guys, you could make the case. I personally, I think I still go D-Hop at 5. If D-Hop wasn't an anti-vaxxer, I'd probably put him at 4. But for me, I'm going to put him at 5. Calvin Ridley would be another one where I would look to take him over DeAndre Hopkins. He's the number 1 option in Atlanta now. No Julio there, so I think he would be another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's your receivers and your running backs. Not tight ends. Obviously, we talked about it. Obviously, Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. Right.
One type of those 3 are going to be, going to be the order. I mean, it's not going to matter at that point.
And then number 4, I really like the option of TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, not a bad one. It depends. It's for me, I think Kyle Pitts, the Atlanta guy, the new rookie.
Fair enough. Yeah,
he's going to be a freak.
Yeah. I forgot that he was even drafted this year, but yeah.
Yeah, he might be up there, but Hawkinson might be better. It depends because Jared Goff, obviously the new QB in Detroit, he's going to be targeting. They have no receivers. They don't have anybody, so he'll be targeting Hawkinson.
Don't they still have Marvin Jones?
Nope, gone.
Really?
Yeah, they have
I know Galladay is gone, but I didn't think Marvin Jones.
Jones gone, Galladay gone. They have nobody, and they went O-line in the draft. So,
I remember now.
So TJ Hawkinson is going to be vital to their offense.
Oh my God,
so I would absolutely go Hawkinson really high, probably as high as T5. Pitts and Hawkinson interchangeable to me. Like whatever way you get them, great. They're both going to be good. Mark Andrews I might throw in there, but again, Lamar kind of puts his value down to me. Like Lamar doesn't throw as much, so obviously his values.
What about Hunter Henry getting new opportunity in New England?
I don't love Hunter Henry because they got the double. They got Giannu Smith and Hunter Henry. And that's kind of like they're each going to eat away at each other's values. I like guys that don't have that second tight end there. Tyler Higbee would be one I would look at now that George Everett's gone. Higbee would be a good one to take late. Even a guy like Robert Tonyan on Green Bay, because Adams isn't going to see every touchdown catch. The ones he doesn't see, likely to go to a guy like Tonyan, who just was a freak
the way Green Bay I've noticed in the last couple of years is they're either obviously Adams is their number 1 option, right?
Yep.
Either Adams, Aaron Jones, or they're looking deep to like Marcus Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah, for sure.
Like there's no in between. He's either launching it 40, 50 yards downfield, or it's like a quick throw to Adams or Aaron Jones.
And that's the thing is like Tonyan for me, it's like he's not going to get you yards, but the guy was a freak for touchdowns. Like he got
he did get
many last year. And so for me, that's why if you're missing out on those tight ends 1 through 6, you might look to go for a guy like Tonyan or a Noah Fant situation there.
Yeah, so, I really liked. I honestly have had him on my team the last 2 years, and I can't remember his name. Austin Hooper.
Yeah,
he was hurt. He was hurt a lot last year with Cleveland, but the year before he had a great year. Above average, I'd say.
Yep.
And then even last year, late in the year, he kind of picked up his play, played a lot better than he started off, obviously with injuries and whatnot as well. Yeah. But I think next year, is he still with Cleveland right now? Do you know?
Yeah, I believe he is. Yep.
I think so, right? So
Cleveland. They also have David Njoku. Obviously that he takes a little bit of value away from Hooper, but
he's also like what I'm trying to say is that he'd be like the perfect replacement for that bye week.
Yeah, exactly. Team. He might be the guy you still on the bench. You take him in the 14th round or something, and you stow him away for that 1 week. Or a fantasy waiver wire pickup would be a solid one.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't be bad. Yeah, I agree.
And then your kickers. Obviously, kickers are people too.
Yeah, kickers are people. Sure. I think. I mean, obviously, I'm going.
Tucker.
No, I go Young Jin Koo.
Yeah, it's Young Wei Koo. Come on now.
Wei Koo, sorry.
Cutest guy in the league.
Yeah, I go him for sure. I mean, those
Yeah.
cheeks alone. No, I'm
Oh my
kidding.
God. See what
Young Wei Koo
what kind of
is
cheeks?
Young Wei Koo is number one. He was the number one kicker last year. I take
Yeah.
him without even a second thought.
Yeah.
He didn't miss from below 50. Like the guy was
No.
a stud.
Or past
So
50. Like he
yeah,
like
he was
yeah.
absolutely unbelievable. So I would take him
I'm
without a doubt.
still I'm still gonna stick with my guy,
Harrison
Bucker.
Bucker. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's just a stud.
yeah,
And then obviously you have Justin Tucker as well.
yeah. I
Right.
think Tucker's rated one, but he's always rated one preseason.
Yeah.
Like every single year, Tucker's rated
Yeah.
as the best kicker. I still take Young Ho.
Young Wei Fu.
I
Young
think it's
Wei.
I think it's Young Hoku. I'm almost sure it is. But
Stop
anyway,
calling him a hoe.
I'm
It's
pretty sure
Wei.
that's his name. I'm
Yeah,
almost sure
but
it's his name.
you pronounce it Young Wei Ku.
Okay. But anyway,
That guy. Pay
but Young
attention.
Waku. Greg Zerlayan would be another one.
Yeah.
Jason Sanders on Miami would be another one. They're kind
He
of
was
like
he
right
was actually
there.
great last year too. Sanders.
Yeah,
He was
underrated.
clutch for yeah. I think it was like late in the year. But yeah.
Yeah, him. And then the last one I would look to consider, if you're in a kicking league and maybe you're not taking one till later, you're letting the guys
Yeah.
get the kickers off the board, would be Rodrigo Blankenship, just
Yeah.
because like
Like yeah.
he was kicker one for the first 10 weeks last year.
Yeah.
So obviously a guy to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Keep in mind there.
And
If
then
Go
I
ahead.
always struggle with this every
Yeah.
year. I don't know why. Actually, no, the one year I actually had New England and they went off that year for defenses. But who would be your top defenses to go after this year?
Well, I mean, for me, obviously defenses don't matter. I'm taking my defense with my last pick and worry about it later. If you're worried about defenses early, I think it's crazy because you're not going to pick the number one defense in the league. Like the only time you
Why
would
not?
be worried about it is if you were able to get the New England Patriots defense 3 years ago or 2 years ago. That defense
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you are looking defense, I think the easiest answers are the Los Angeles Rams because they're going to get sacks, you're going to get points. Aaron Donald's a freak. That Washington football team, their defense is gross. Obviously, you got a little bit of
Chase
less.
Young, yeah.
Yeah, they got 4 D tackles that are like all stars that are just
Yeah.
Pro Bowlers beyond belief.
Yeah.
And they're all just absolutely incredible, and they get a ton of interceptions. So the Washington football team would be another. Obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers, just strength of schedule. Like Pittsburgh Steelers never have a hard schedule, and their defense is always up there.
Yeah.
So for me,
And
TJ
then I think
Watt's
I would maybe put like Atlanta or not Atlanta, Arizona with
yeah.
JJ Watt and Buda Baker now, like or
Potentially. I think
they'd be pretty
Arizona,
good.
though, Arizona is tough because they're in such a tough division. Like they're going to get blown out by Seattle at least a couple times. So that's, I mean, obviously something to think about. But yeah, but they're not bad. I think, again, another one too, Baltimore, classic, same in the Steelers
Miami also
division.
surprised teams last year with their defense.
Yeah,
I think it was OJ Howard leading the league in interceptions or whatnot.
Yep.
And now he's demanding a trade out of Miami, obviously because he's not getting the respect that he deserves. And I don't think he cares about the money as more as earning the respect from the team. But
Yep.
it is what it is, I guess, with that.
Obviously,
But
two other safe plays. Tampa, 49ers. Can't really go wrong with either of those.
yeah,
And then, yeah, maybe if you're waiting till the end and they're still available, I really like the Indianapolis Colts D. Super
Yeah.
underrated.
no, for sure.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, like if you're going D early, I think the only one you really go with is Rams, Steelers, the safe bets, and then maybe if you're taking some late, Arizona might not be a bad shout.
Yeah,
Potentially 49ers Colts situation.
fair enough. Yeah, not bad.
Not bad. And then last but not least, I think low-key quarterbacks. If we're like ranking QBs, I know
Yeah.
we had talked about Herbert, we had talked about Mahomes, Allen, those type of guys. But if you're looking for like late QB steals this year, I got a couple. One would be Joe Burrow. He just got Jamar Chase back.
Yeah, but he's coming off of an ACL injury.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. That's what I'm saying. If you're looking for one super late, he has
I guess that
really
that's
high
fair.
upside.
That's a good point.
Because
That's
if
a
he
good
comes
point.
back and he's great and he's got Jamar
Right.
Chase with him, I feel like
Yeah.
there's some upside there. Another one, low key Jalen Hurts, simply because he gets so many rushing yards. He's like Walmart Lamar Jackson. He gets a bunch of rushing yards, but like not as much. And I think there's some upside there for sure. He's not going to go as high as the other guys. So if you're looking for a QB late, I really like Jalen Hurts.
Tom Brady's available too.
Tom Brady, he might be a top 10 fantasy quarterback again.
I picked him 2 years ago.
Listen, he might be a top 10 fantasy quarterback again. I think he is unreal. I think Dak, obviously, I think he might drop in some leagues simply because of the ACL injury. He's going to be injured, but if he performs, or sorry, the broken ankle. Yeah,
Yeah.
if he performs, oh my God, would he be good? He'd be like a top 5 QB. So
Yeah.
he's definitely one to think about in some leagues. I think he might drop because of the injury, and I think there's a lot of advantage to be taken there.
Yeah. What are
And
your thoughts
then
on Baker? Because I know he
I don't
didn't
like
do
Baker in
the greatest
fantasy.
last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Um,
feel like there's always so much hype because he's got such good talent around him. Like he's got Kareem, Chubb, Odell, Jarvis, like studs. And I think
Austin
there's
Hooper.
always so much hype. Sure. And David Njoku. There's so
Yeah.
much hype around Baker Mayfield. But I just think that for fantasy, I wouldn't take. I'd be tempted more to take Trevor Lawrence over Baker, simply because of the talent.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But yeah, who knows? I think there's definitely upside in a few, and then maybe even Matthew Stafford. He moved to the Rams. There's get some weapons there. They got a gross defense. I feel like there's upside to win games there. They got just a disgusting receiving core with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and then obviously Tyler Higbee. So definitely some upside there in terms of like a top 10 quarterback. And then last but not least, if we're naming all these guys, Ryan Tannehill with Brown and
What about your guy from who you picked last year, Matt Ryan? Matty Ice.
not even touching him. He can't throw touchdowns. He sucks. I would throw his head
But
into.
he's got Calvin Ridley as his number one option.
He's got Calvin Ridley. He's got Kyle Pitts, but he can't throw touchdown passes. And I learned that the hard way last year. Avoid Matt Ryan at all costs. Draft Ryan Tannehill. He's got Julio Jones, AJ Brown, going to be a stud. Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, I think avoid Matty Ice at all costs. I love him dearly. I live with the biggest Falcons fan in the history of the world. Matty Ice is a disaster in fantasy. Don't draft him. But you know what, guys?
Mike, if you're listening to this, it wasn't me, man.
Yeah,
not me.
I'm sorry.
It's all your roommate, buddy. It's all your roommate.
So tough, but yeah, I think even he would tell you to avoid Matt Ryan. So. But you know what? I hope this has been some good fantasy advice. Next week, hopefully, if things go to plan, we're going to have a guest on. We're going to be breaking down some mock picks in fantasy football, and we'll just be giving you some more kind of in-depth view that we could get to today. So stay tuned for that.
Week 1 preseason this Thursday. Let's go.
Yes, sir. All right. Take it easy, guys, and thanks for listening.